My parents left my 7-year-old daughter in foster care while they took my sister's kids to Miami. The note said, "Sorry, sweetie, we had no choice." I didn't argue. I just filed a quiet report. The next morning, there was a knock on their hotel door. I'm David, and the last few weeks have been hell. It all started when my wife, Vanessa, got seriously ill. We've been married for 10 years, and our daughter, Anna, who's 7, is the best thing we have. She's a curious girl, always asking questions like, why the stars shine. But when Vanessa's cough turned into something much worse, something that landed her in the ICU with tubes and machines, Anna got quiet. She was scared. So was I. Vanessa had pneumonia, but the doctor said her lungs couldn't handle it. They were trying everything, but there were no guarantees. I stayed at the hospital day and night, holding her hand, talking even though she couldn't respond. I barely slept, hardly ate, only thought about her and Anna. I couldn't be in 2 places at once, so I asked my parents for help. Adrian and Laura, my parents, live an hour away in a house where I grew up. They've always been good with Anna, taking her to the park or baking cookies. They're not perfect. My mom sometimes criticizes my job as a mechanic, and my dad lives for golf. But they were family. I trusted them. Big mistake. One rainy afternoon, I left Anna with them. She had her backpack with clothes and her favorite stuffed animal, a bunny named Bonnie. I explained that Mom was sick, and I had to stay with her for a few days. Anna nodded, hugging Bonnie. I hugged her tightly and promised to come back soon. I gave my mom my credit card for anything Anna might need, food, clothes, whatever. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, David will take care of her." My dad was watching TV and just waved at me. I thought everything was fine. The next few days were chaos. Vanessa got worse, then slightly better, then worse again. The doctors tried a new treatment, but they didn't promise anything. I was shattered, barely functioning. I texted my mom to check on Anna, and she sent short replies. "She's fine. Focus on Vanessa or Anna's playing." I was so exhausted I didn't ask for more details. I just wanted to believe my daughter was safe. After a week, the doctor said Vanessa was more stable. Not out of danger, but I could leave the hospital for a bit. I hadn't seen Anna in days, and the guilt was eating me. I wanted to hug her, to reassure her everything would be okay. So I drove to my parents' house, exhausted. When I got there, the house was dark. Their car was gone. I knocked, but no one answered. I used my key and went inside, calling for Anna. Silence. I checked the house quickly. The living room, the kitchen, Anna's bedroom. Her backpack was gone. So was Bonnie. Panic set in. I called my parents, but their phones were off. I texted, "Where are you?" "Where's Anna?" Nothing. Then I found a note in the kitchen, written by my mom, under a mug. It read, "David, we're sorry, sweetheart. We had to go to Miami with Jessica's kids. We couldn't take Anna. It was last minute. She's safe at Sunnyvale Children's Home, 1423 Maple Street. We'll be back in a week. Love, Mom and Dad. P.S. We had no choice." I couldn't believe it. They left my 7-year-old daughter in a foster home to go on vacation with my sister Jessica's kids. My hands were shaking. I could barely breathe. Tears of rage burned my eyes. I looked up the address. Sunnyvale was 20 minutes away. I ran to the car without even closing the door. The Sunnyvale building was cold, with beige walls and harsh lights. A woman at the reception asked for my ID and Anna's name. "She's been here 2 days," she said. She was crying when they dropped her off, asking for her bunny. I felt the world collapse. I followed the woman to a small room. Anna was sitting on a cot, hugging an old blanket. When she saw me, she ran to me, screaming, "Daddy, they left me." I hugged her tightly, trying not to break down. "I'm here, little one, I'm so sorry," I kept saying. She was trembling, and all I could do was repeat that everything would be okay. The woman gave me a form to sign and let me take her. She didn't say much, as if this was normal. I carried Anna to the car, and she clung to me, not letting go. At home, I put her on the couch with juice and her favorite cartoons. I needed to think. I checked my credit card on my phone. My parents had spent thousands. hotel in Miami, flights, restaurants. Not only did they abandon my daughter, but they used my money to fund their trip. I was furious, wanted to scream at them, but their phones were still off. I called the hospital to check on Vanessa. The nurse said she was still stable, maybe improving. It was a small relief. Then I started looking into what my parents did. It wasn't just cruel, it was illegal. You can't leave a child in foster care without the parents' permission. They'd cross a line. I contacted a lawyer friend, Mark, and told him everything. The note, the foster home, the charges. "David, this is serious," he said. "You've got a case for child abandonment and fraud. But they're your parents. Are you sure?" I thought of Anna, alone and scared, and said, "Yes, I'm sure." He told me to save everything. The note, screenshot of the charges, a report from Sunnyvale. I spent the night gathering evidence, fueled by anger. I didn't know why my parents did this, but I wasn't going to let it slide. The next morning, the phone rang. It was the hospital. The nurse's voice was heavy. "David, I'm sorry. Vanessa had respiratory failure last night. She didn't make it." The world stopped. I don't know how I hung up. I just remember sitting next to Anna, who was sleeping on the couch, and hugging her while I cried. My wife, Anna's mother, was gone. It was just Anna and me now. I didn't tell Anna, not yet, not after everything. But as I held her, I made a silent promise. I'd protect her, no matter what. And that included confronting my parents. I didn't call them. Instead, I followed Mark's advice and prepared the evidence. I knew my parents would be back in a few days, and I wanted to be ready, not just for the money, but for what they did to Anna. Nobody hurts my daughter and gets away with it. The next few days were a whirlwind of grief and rage. Anna and I stayed home, trying to find some normalcy. She didn't ask much, but her eyes said everything. She was scared, confused. I told her mom was in heaven, watching over us. I don't know if she understood, but she hugged me tightly and didn't let go of Bonnie, which I'd found in a closet at my parents' house when I went to get her things. I tried to be strong for her, but every night when she slept, I broke down. Vanessa was gone, and the hole in my chest grew every hour. Meanwhile, I gathered everything Mark asked for. The note, screenshots of the charges, nearly $5,000 on flights, hotel, and meals in Miami, an email from Sunnyvale confirming Anna had been there for 2 days. Mark said it was enough for a solid case of child abandonment and fraud. "You could sue them, David, but it's your call," he said. I didn't want to go that far, not at first. I wanted to hear their explanation, see if they had anything to justify what they did. But deep down, I knew there was no excuse. For days later, my mom texted me, "We're back tonight. We'll come by your house tomorrow to talk." Not an apology, not a mention of Anna, just that. It made me angry, but I held it in. I wanted to see their faces when I asked why they left my daughter in a foster home. That night, I barely slept. Anna had a nightmare and ended up in my bed, curled up against me. I held her, silently promising no one would hurt her again. The next morning, I got up early, made coffee, and got Anna ready for the day. I told her grandparents were coming, but didn't say what I planned to tell them. I didn't want to worry her more. At noon, there was a knock. It was my parents, Adriana and Laura, with my sister, Jessica. The three of them looked tan, like they'd just come back from a cruise. Anna was in her room playing, so I let them into the living room. I didn't offer them anything, just stared. "Why?" I asked, my voice tight. "Why did you leave Anna in a foster home?" My mom got nervous, glancing at my dad. "David, don't be dramatic," she said. "It was just a few days, and she was well taken care of." "Well taken care of?" I said, raising my voice. She was crying, asking for her bunny. "You left her alone in a strange place without telling me." My dad sighed, like I was the problem. "Look, David, it was last minute. Jessica asked us to take her kids to Miami because they were stressed from the divorce. We didn't have room for Anna, and we didn't want to bother you with Vanessa's situation." That made my blood boil. Bother me? I'm her father. "And you used my card to pay for your trip, $5,000. Jessica, who'd been quiet, finally spoke. Hey, don't make a big deal out of this. Mom and Dad did us a favor, and it's not like Anna was in danger. That home is safe. Safe? I shouted. It's a foster home, Jessica, not a summer camp. My 7-year-old daughter was alone while you were sipping margaritas on the beach. My mom started crying, saying she was sorry, that they didn't think it was a big deal. My dad got defensive. You always make a drama out of everything, David. You're difficult. You always have been. We can't do anything without you getting mad. That stopped me cold. Difficult? All I'd done was trust them, leave my daughter with them while my wife was dying, and now they were blaming me. I didn't mention Vanessa. The pain was too fresh, and I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of using it against me. Pay back the money, I said coldly, and explain why you thought it was okay to abandon my daughter. If you don't, I'll sue. My mom went pale. Sue us? Your own family, David. Please. I'm not playing. I said, you have 1 week to pay me back, or I talk to my lawyer. My dad laughed like it was a joke. Do what you want, but you're not going to get us in trouble for this. You're ungrateful. They left soon after, without a real apology. Jessica shot me a look like I was the bad guy. I stood in the living room, shaking with rage, wondering how my own family could be so selfish. The next few days were tough. Anna started asking more about Vanessa, and I did my best to answer without breaking down. I told her mom was always with us in our hearts, but every time I said it, I felt myself break a little more. I had to keep working to pay the bills. So I hired a nanny, a kind neighbor Anna liked. I couldn't risk leaving her with family again. One morning, while we were having breakfast, someone knocked on the door. It was a woman from Child Protective Services. My stomach dropped. She said they received an anonymous complaint that I'd abandoned Anna. I was speechless. I explained everything: Vanessa, the hospital, my parents, the foster home. I showed her the note, the Sunnyvale emails, everything I had. She took notes, said they'd investigate, and left. I knew it couldn't be anyone but my family. An anonymous complaint was too convenient. The rage came back, but this time mixed with fear. What if they tried to take Anna? She was all I had left. I called Mark that afternoon and told him, "This is retaliation," he said. "They're trying to smear you because they know you have a case against them. We need to move fast." Mark helped me prepare a formal complaint against my parents for child abandonment and fraud. He said the CPS complaint could complicate things, but my evidence was solid. You've got the note, the charges, the Sunnyvale report. We can prove they left her, not you, he explained. He warned me that going to court against my family would be tough, but I saw no other option, not just for the money, but for Anna. No one would hurt her like that again. Meanwhile, my mom started calling, leaving tearful voicemails. "David, please don't do this. We're family. We can fix this." Jessica texted, saying I was being selfish, that I should think of my nephews who needed that vacation. My dad said nothing, as usual, letting my mom handle mess. I didn't respond. I was too hurt, too angry, but part of me still doubted. They were my parents. I remembered them taking me to baseball games, helping with homework. But then I thought of Anna alone in that foster home, and Vanessa, who'd never know what happened. That gave me the strength to keep going. Mark filed the papers a week later. The complaint was sent to my parents, and I knew they got it because my mom called, screaming, "How could you do this to us after everything we've done for you?" I didn't answer. I hung up and blocked her number. I couldn't deal with her drama while trying to keep my life together. CPS contacted me again, saying their investigation found no evidence I'd abandoned Anna, but they'd keep the case open for a while. I was relieved, but not much. I knew my parents or Jessica were behind that complaint, and it made my blood boil. While waiting for the case to move forward, I focused on Anna. I took her to park, bought her ice cream, tried to make her laugh. Sometimes it worked, but other times I'd see her staring out the window, like she was looking for Vanessa. I did the same, even though I knew she wasn't coming back. Every day was a struggle not to sink into grief, but Anna kept me going. Mark said the trial would be in a couple of months. My parents hired a lawyer. meaning they weren't going to pay back the money without a fight. Part of me wanted to be over, but another part wanted them to pay, not just for the $5,000, but for the fear they put Anna through, for betrayal, for trying to smear me with that CPS complaint. One night, while Anna slept, I sat with a beer and looked at photos of Vanessa on my phone. In one, she was laughing on the beach with Anna in her arms. Tears came again, but this time they weren't just from sadness. They were from determination. I'd fight for my daughter, for our life, for Vanessa's memory. My parents would face the consequences, whether they liked it or not. The months that followed were a test of endurance. The trial was approaching, and I juggled caring for Anna, working long shifts at the garage, and meeting with Mark to prepare the case. Anna was starting to smile more, thanks to park afternoons and the nanny, Carla, who'd become an unexpected support. But there were still moments when I'd find her staring into space, hugging Bonnie, and I knew the pain of losing Vanessa wouldn't fade soon. I felt the same, but I had to stay strong for her. My parents didn't give up. My mom kept leaving tearful voicemails, saying I was destroying the family. Jessica texted, calling me selfish, saying I should let it go for everyone's sake. My dad, as always, stayed silent. His silence was almost worse than my mom's yelling. But I stopped listening to their excuses. Every time I thought of Anna alone in that foster home, my resolve grew stronger. Mark explained that the case was solid. The note, the credit card charges, and the Sunnyvale report were clear evidence of child abandonment and fraud. CPS had closed my case, confirming there was no evidence I'd abandoned Anna. That gave me some relief, but I knew my parents or Jessica were behind that anonymous complaint. It was their last attempt to manipulate me, and it wasn't going to work. The trial day came quickly. It was a cold morning, and I left Anna with Carla before heading to court. I didn't want her near this mess. In the courtroom, my parents and Jessica sat across from me with their lawyer, a guy in a cheap suit who looked too confident. My parents avoided my eyes, but Jessica shot me a glare like I was a villain. I sat next to Mark with a note and charged screenshots in a folder in front of me. The judge was an older woman with a serious but fair expression. Mark presented our case first. He explained how my parents left Anna in a foster home without my permission while I was at the hospital with Vanessa. He showed the note, reading it aloud. "We're sorry, sweetheart, we had no choice." The room felt heavy as those words echoed. Then he showed the $5,000 in charges on my card, flights, hotel, restaurants in Miami. Finally, he presented the Sunnyvale report, confirming Anna was there for 2 days, crying and asking for her bunny. My parents' lawyer tried to defend them, saying it was a mistaken judgment, that they didn't mean to harm Anna, and that the foster home was safe. He argued that I gave him the card, so it was a misunderstanding. But the judge didn't seem convinced. She asked why they didn't notify me, why they didn't ask permission. The lawyer stumbled, and my dad muttered something I couldn't hear. When it was my turn to speak, I kept my voice steady. I told how I found the note, how I went to get Anna and found her scared, how I discovered the charges. I didn't talk about Vanessa. I couldn't, but I said I trusted them. I left my daughter with them because I thought they'd take care of her, and they left her alone while they went on vacation with my sister's kids. The room was silent. I saw my mom lower her head, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I remembered Anna's face in that foster home, and the guilt turned to rage. The judge gave her verdict at the end of the day. She found my parents guilty of child abandonment and fraud. She ordered them to pay a $2,000 fine and return the $5,000 they spent. She also required them to attend parental responsibility classes, which I found almost comical. They weren't Anna's parents, but the message was clear. What they did was wrong. Jessica was in charge, but the judge warned her that any further false complaints could have consequences. As we left the courtroom, my mom approached, crying, "David, please, we're family. We didn't want this to happen." My dad just said, "You're ungrateful." Jessica didn't speak, just glared at me with contempt. I didn't respond. I walked away, feeling a mix of relief and emptiness. I'd won, but it didn't feel like a victory. The money arrived in my account a few weeks later. I used it to pay hospital debts and put some in a fund for Anna, but the trial didn't fix what was broken. My parents and Jessica kept acting like I was the problem. My mom sent one last message. When you're ready to be family again, we'll be here. I deleted it. I couldn't stay connected to them. Not after what they did. I decided it was time for a change. Anna and I needed a fresh start away from the memories and betrayals. I found a small apartment in a town a couple of hours away, near a good school for Anna. The garage where I work had a branch there and offered me a transfer. It wasn't perfect, but it was a step forward. Packing was hard. Every item, Vanessa's photos, Anna's toys, our clothes, reminded me of what we lost. But it also gave me hope. Anna seemed excited about the move. "Will we have a park nearby?" she asked one night, hugging Bonnie. "Of course, little one," I said, "and you'll have your own room to decorate." That made her smile, and for the first time in months, I felt we could be okay. Before we left, I took Anna to the cemetery where Vanessa rested. We placed flowers on her grave. I spoke to her silently, promising to take care of our daughter, to make her happy. Anna left a drawing she'd made, a heart with the words, "I love you, Mommy." It took everything not to break down, but I did it for her. On moving day, I looked at the house one last time. It had been our home with Vanessa, but now it was just a place full of memories. I put Anna in the car with Bonnie on her lap and drove to our new life. I didn't look back. It's been a couple of months since then. Anna's in a new school making friends. She still asks about Vanessa, but she smiles more now. I keep working, and though the pain hasn't gone away, it feels a bit lighter. I haven't spoken to my parents or Jessica since the trial. I don't know if I ever will. For now, my family is Anna, and that's enough. Sometimes I look at the photo of Vanessa on the beach and think about what she'd say if she saw all this. I think she'd be proud, not just of the trial, but for not giving up, for moving forward, for our daughter. And though the road has been hard, I know we're making it one day at a time.